Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Andy, and we're here from Heart of the Game.
This week we are here to discuss some black cards for Commander that we think are underutilized.
We're going to take a look at 5 cards that are under $1 and 5 cards that are under $5.
Now, this is not an end-all be-all list, nor should all of these cards go into every deck, but we do think that they should see more play than they do right now.
Our first $1 or less card that we're going to take a look at today is Zulaport Cutthroat. Now, this may not seem like that great of a card for a 1/1 for 2 mana, but its ability, allowing you to passively gain a little bit of life while you're hurting your opponents, is spectacular.
Not to mention, it's a super efficient way to combo kill your opponents if you have the ability to create an infinite number of dies triggers, because it gets around Hexproof or Shroud.
This could be including Mikaeus Walking Ballista combo or Revlark Karmic Guide and a sack outlet. There's just so many combos that this can go along with that allow you to have those dies triggers.
It just pairs incredibly well with any aristocrat style deck where you're trying to have your things die to get triggers like Zulaport Cutthroat. Our next card is Plague Crafter. Now, a 3 mana 3/2 is not the best stats in the world, but that enters the battlefield effect is something that you really want to utilize because you're effectively going to be trading 1 card for your opponent's 3.
And even if your opponent doesn't have a creature or planeswalker on the battlefield, this causes them to discard a card. It's so powerful because with most effects like Merciless Executioner, it's only going to hit the creatures on the battlefield, and then this opponent who did not have a creature wouldn't have anything happen to them.
Yes, so it's more likely to give you a 3-for-1 than a Merciless Executioner or a Fleshbag Marauder. In addition, all of these effects are incredibly useful because they can get around Indestructible.
The third card we're looking at today is Heartless Act. This just came out with Ikoria, so it's new, and it's basically better than the card we were originally going to put on here, which is Go for the Throat.
Now, the reason that we chose Heartless Act over Go for the Throat is Heartless Act, it hits more creatures. I very seldomly see anything that has counters of any capacity on them, much less more than 3 counters. Our next card is Ob Nixilis Reignited. This card is incredibly powerful because it has 2 cards that already exist printed on it.
Those 2 cards are Murder, Ob Nixilis' small minus, and Phyrexian Arena, his plus.
Now, in addition to that, he's also a Planeswalker, which means that he's effectively a life gain spell because your opponents are going to have to attack it for you to no longer have that card advantage.
And if you somehow get the ult off on him, it's so backbreaking for that opponent because every single time any player draws a card, that player's losing 2 life.
Including the player who has the emblem.
Our last card for under $1 is Vona's Hunger. Now, this card is very similar to Liliana's Triumph, only it costs a mana more, so you may think that it's just worse, but once you have the City's Blessing, they have to sacrifice half of their creatures.
Usually, some sort of edict effect, like Liliana's Triumph, is enough to set someone back in a game, usually 1 or 2 turns worth of mana invested. But when they have to sacrifice half of their creatures, it is usually lights out for 6 or 7 turns.
And the City's Blessing is basically always on because once you're at turn 5 or 6 in the game, you have those 10 permanents.
Now we're going to move on to our $5 or less underutilized black cards. Our first card is Phyrexian Delver. The reason I like Phyrexian Delver is because it lets you cheat costs for your creatures.
It's also tied to an enter the battlefield effect, so it can get reused again with your Restoration Angel, with your Felidar Guardian, and all you have to do is you lose a little life for the creature that you brought back.
Yeah, so when I use this to reanimate Jin Gataxias, it's usually lights out for my opponents, and all that cost me was 5 mana and 10 life.
Our second card is Animate Dead. Now, this, just like Phyrexian Delver, brings back a creature from your graveyard to play, but this can hit any player's graveyard, so it's super good.
The only drawback for this being 2 mana is that you lose 1 power on the creature, which, in my opinion, the 3 mana for 1 power is a definitely worthwhile trade-off.
It also combos spectacularly with World Gorger Dragon, because it brings back World Gorger Dragon, and when World Gorger Dragon enters the battlefield, you exile all other permanents, which causes Animate Dead to leave play, which sacrifices World Gorger Dragon,
which triggers his leaves the battlefield effect, which brings back the Animate Dead, and then the Animate Dead brings back the World Gorger, starting the combo over again.
Now, you can use this with just something that enters the battlefield and does a damage to your opponent, or you can just start floating the mana from all of your lands that are continually entering and leaving the battlefield.
And this is a very common combo for Anjay Falconwrath. That deck utilizes this combo to tap Anjay to draw cards so that they go through their whole deck, and then they reanimate something else at the end after they've floated infinite mana, and then they Torment a Hailfire or exsanguinate their opponents to death. Our next card is Languish. Now this is a 4 mana board wipe. Do you know any other 4 mana board wipes?
Oh, there are tons. There's Damnation, there's Wrath of God, there's Day of Judgment. Most board wipes are 4 mana.
Okay, how many of them can get through Indestructible?
Basically none.
Now, this card, although it might on its surface seem worse than Wrath of God or Day of Judgment or Damnation, this card can get through Indestructible unlike those ones. -4/-4 also will kill almost everything that I have seen played recently against me in Commander, except for the Scarab God, Niv Mizzet, and Tasigur.
However, this can also be used as a combat trick against those creatures. So, say I go through and I just attack with my 2/2, and Joe blocks with his Niv Mizzet, thinking, why would he bother doing that? Now I can just play the Languish, and everything dies.
Including that Niv Mizzet, which is usually the largest creature that I ever see on the board.
Our next card is Bolas's Citadel. Now, I'm usually not a big fan of high mana cost things like Bolas's Citadel, but this just gives you so much value by playing the cards off the top of your deck without even having to pay their mana cost.
Remember how we were saying about Phyrexian Delver and Animate Dead that cheating costs is pretty powerful? Yeah, well, this makes you cheat the costs without having to pay any mana.
Plus, it has combos with so many other cards, like Sensei's Divining Top. You just have that and Aetherflux Reservoir out, and you've just won the game. You play your Sensei's Divining Top off the top for 1 life, and then Aetherflux allows you to gain more than the 1 life that you paid into it.
Yeah, I use this in most of my decks because I find that the card and mana advantage engine of Citadel is incredibly powerful, coupled with the fact that I'm already playing Sensei's Dividing Top, and Aetherflux Reservoir, it means that I just get to have another combo for free.
Plus, the rarely used side of it, its activated ability, where you sacrifice 10 non-land permanents, has won games for people before.
Yeah, I've only ever seen it activated 2 or 3 times, but every time that it has been activated, it kills all of that person's opponents. Our last underutilized black card for under $5 is Vilis, Broker of Blood. Remember how we were talking about not liking high mana cost things like Bolas's Citadel? Vilis is another card that I think is definitely worth playing, even though it does have that high cost, because Vilis is going to go into a Reanimator deck where you're trying to cheat that cost.
Yeah, and if you use Reanimate or Phyrexian Delver, when he comes back in, that life loss trigger happens after he's in play, so you actually get to draw cards for the life you lost.
Yeah, so if I cast a Reanimate on my Vilis, I'm going to lose 8 life. And because Vilis is in play, I'm going to draw 8 cards, which means that I ended up with an 8/8. And then drew 8 cards for 1 mana.
That's pretty powerful. Now, we also can't forget the fact that he is removal in and of himself. By paying 1 black mana and 2 life, I can make an opponent's creature get -1/-1. Do that a few times, kill off the creature, and just draw that many cards. It's so powerful.
Not to mention, that activated ability gets incredibly powerful if you have another card called Crick in play. Because Crick will make it so that you can pay 2 life instead of paying that black mana, which means you'll pay 4 life, draw 4 cards, and give a creature -1/-1 until end of turn.
So those were some great budget commander cards for black that just, I'd really like to see more.
Yeah, I think I might want to build a Reanimator deck built around Vilis.
Yeah, Reanimator, drawing all the cards, killing all the things efficiently.
Yeah, it just sounds like my type of magic. If you missed either of our previous videos, they are available here. There is also links in the description.
And if you have yet to subscribe, click right here.
Be sure to tune in next week for our next video, which is going to be red. And thank you
Thanks
for watching.